Hi, my name is Domenica and I'm the CEO of Impact Life. And today we are excited to do our very first podcast. So, our very first podcast guest is Holly Rubinski, who has been a friend of mine for almost 30 years. I was talking about this before you got here. I'm really excited to have you here. So, I was thinking about like what should our first podcast be and what can we talk about? And our stories have so much alignment. And one of the things that we really want to do is talk about hope around the holidays for people who may need it. So, people who are still in active addiction or parents who have kids that are in addiction or in recovery. And so, you were the first person I thought of because I feel like we've been through some stuff.
I don't want you to actually think about me for
I
this
know.
topic,
I think of you for good things as well. But I feel like there's really some things that we've learned that you and I have talked about in different phases of our life over the years that might be beneficial to people, and kind of how we've navigated some really difficult stuff. So I don't know. Does it sound like a good place to start for you?
Yeah. Thanks for asking me to come. It's also my first podcast, so that's cool.
We'll learn together.
I know, right? I feel like I'm always just learning new things. So, if we are gonna talk about like some kind of hope or things that I've been through, I know we had mentioned a little bit about, like the grief piece, like with holidays and like, if I don't have, like I struggle a lot with my children, not having people like Scarlett will be upset because there's not a lot of people for a particular holiday. And we kind of went through this like on Thanksgiving where she's like, well, who else coming to Thanksgiving, And I'm like, well, Nana and Papa. And that's all I have, that's it. And then she sees like all of her cousins and it's like all these people at these events, or at these, functions or whatever. And it's just this small group of people because everyone has died, and, and it's been 3 years since like with, my sister and TJ passed and like her dad died 10, there's all this loss that these little people have. So, like that's one of the hardest things I think I deal with lately, is that like, if I speak for myself, it's like, I go through my own stuff too. Yeah. I had a vision that my life would look this way and that's not how it looks,
That's the word. It's like the hardest part, right? It's the hardest part. And it's so interesting that you brought that up, right? I was driving here this morning and I was like, what are the main things that are really important? And I know for me, right, this season right now, right here, feels very heavy to me. And it always feels heavy. But for whatever reason, this season right here since Thanksgiving feels extra heavy. And I think a lot of it comes from exactly what you just said, right? So my older kids lost their dad around Easter last year. And so, like you said, right, it's even though his addiction took him out of their lives for many years, he wasn't present.
Like
now he's not present at all. And yes, there was hope while he was alive that one of those holidays was going to be the one, right? And they got that. They got that for Easter. He was present. He was sober. It was amazing. And then it's like you go to the next holiday and there's this void, right? And nothing fills it. Nothing fills it, right? You can heal and you can go through all the things that make it better, but it's like, what do you do? And like you said, with the little people, like it's hard for us to deal with the heaviness and the loneliness. And this thought that like, I look back constantly and I'm like, this is not what it looked like. I had these plans of buying an RV and traveling and going on vacations. And now that my kids are a little older, having time with my partner that was like us getting older and doing these things. And now it's like that was snatched in an instant.
Yeah.
And everything shifts. And I think the hardest thing for me in that was everything else kept moving. Like everyone else is just that next day.
Oh,
People
yeah,
are
yeah.
getting
They just
up and
go
going
back
to work.
their lives. Yeah.
They're going back to their lives. And you're sitting in this state of like, what do I do now?
And they like show up, like people show up and they're like there for you and they bring you tons of food that you don't want to eat. But then when that little period of time is over,
away.
it's like, okay, we've all processed this ourselves. And then they move on. And that makes sense. But
For
like
them.
now I got to deal with like, my own feelings. And then like what all like my kids, like I remember Gage saying, we like went for a walk with the dogs and he's like, so when are we going to get a new TJ? And I was like, oh my God, like that's not how it works, And then Scarlett thinks that if I go out on a date, she wants to know everything about them. Do they have kids? As if like I go out with someone to like have coffee, like we're getting married or something.
Yes.
I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, because like in her head, they just want, I think, and you see it on, you see it on TV. They have at school. It's like Father's Day. It's Mother's Day. It's all these different things. And like, all those, I think, outside things are what affects, like, for me, even, for me, like what I see on social media, everyone in their happy little families. Like, yes, I'm happy for you. And there was a period that I wasn't. I just was telling somebody this last night. Like, I'm like, I used to see, like, right after, like, all of that stuff kind of happened, and I wasn't happy for you. Like, I wanted to be, but I wasn't. I was, like, jealous, like, oh, and then now, so, like, now I see it and I am happy for them, right? Which like it's been 3 years, right? But it's taken me all this time to get to a place where it's like, okay, I am happy to see that you're, you found someone, like that's great.
Yeah.
Like, and I still want it for myself, right? But it was like a couple years. I was like
to
real
get
miserable.
there.
Yeah.
100%. And I think that happens, like you said, with the kids too, right? It's like they see all these other things that are what society says are like the normal way or the way things are supposed to look. And then I think there's times where you feel like, what is wrong with me? Like, why don't I have that? Or why can't I get back to there? Or, all those things. And I think for me, I go back and forth between that and also being in this place where I'm like, I'm good. Like now I think that all of those traumas have brought me to a place where it's like, do I even want to invest in something else because are they going to get taken too? And it's this constant like fear because it's all fear-based. So then I think for me, I dive into other things. Like, I'm going to pour myself into work.
yes.
I'm going to pour myself into...
We know you definitely pour yourself into work. It's
Pour
like
myself into
9:30
work.
at night. What can I do now?
I know.
Yes.
I'll pour myself into the kids. Now I have grandbabies. I'm going to spend all my time with them.
Right.
But right, as well as I do, 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, the kids are in bed, everyone's resting, and you're kind of just alone with your own thoughts. And I think that's where I think about like what shifted for me that took me to a place where you just talked about. Like, where did I shift from anger, resentment, fear? I mean, I still sit in that a lot. But to this place where it's like, okay, I just have to accept that, like, this is the story, right? And this is where we are. Like, and how did that shift happen? And I think for me, I had to constantly remind myself that there's, like, still good things out there. Because the world started to look very, like, it was hopeless. Like, I felt very hopeless.
Yeah.
Right? I felt like, I mean, because we had 5 deaths in a matter of a year. Most of them overdose or addiction related. My best friend passed away from cancer around that same time. My grandmother passed. And the kids were at a point, my one daughter, her best friend died of suicide. Right. And then they had these other significant losses. And I think my whole household started to go, is this what life is? Like, just death.
Right.
Like all these people, that are close that I love. So how does it become safe to love other people, right? And like truly like open up and feel safe when you have all this death like around them, right? And I think for us, like I have to constantly remind them like they're still good. And there's people that love us and these people are here. They're here now.
Yes. No,
like
I've
they're
definitely
still
said that.
here.
Yeah.
And so like it's safe to
Yeah.
like love them and spend time with them. And that was a really hard transition. Like I had to be very mindful and very like strategic about the people that I surrounded myself and my kids with in those times, because there was so much fear about anyone that came into their lives. And that, I think, was probably the most difficult thing for me, is kind of watching the hopelessness that they had because of the trauma, right? And I think getting them connected with some trauma help, trauma therapy. Like, but I'm stubborn, right? So like for me, it's like, I don't need therapy. Like I got this, right? And really kind of
Like, no.
surrendering.
I had to go. Like, I had
100%.
stopped, and then I was like, I have to go back. And it's funny because, so Gage saw a therapist from the time that I had went to jail the last time, and he had been going to her, but then he was doing so well. I'm like, you don't need to go to this thing.
Yeah.
Like you're doing good. Like
Yeah.
everything is, and he had stopped, and he was like, why did I stop seeing Dr. Tara? And I was like, I don't. Did you want to go back? And he's like, yeah, I never asked to stop. And like he's going to be 16. Oh my gosh, in like 3 weeks. But that was something that I know helps them. And then it's like Scarlett goes too, but like don't get me started about like insurance, because like I had to stop her from, I can't afford to pay $170 every week, and that's sad because like you need it and you benefit from it, and I know you do, because some of the stuff Gage has learned, he has like been like, Scarlett, do this. Like he's used the stuff he's learned when he sees her struggling.
Especially I think people who work in this field, there's this pride thing, I think, that kind of kicks in sometimes. And it's, I think, a little bit of, for me, right? I'll speak for myself, a little bit of pride and a little bit of stubbornness. And a little bit of like, yo, I know the things, I just need to do them. But I think what I learned was I can know the things and I can do them, but just having someone else to tell me that I'm not totally like off my rocker, like was so validating for me, because I think,
Well, that's like why we're doing this podcast now. Right?
yeah. I think
Like,
we're expected to just
yeah.
manage so much. I think it's important for other people to understand that that's just not realistic.
Yeah,
Like,
and what you
have
see
to-
on social media
It's not real.
Just because, like, I post this happy picture of us, like, going and doing something,
Yeah.
like, at night, like, we still have stuff that I feel or you feel or, like, that we go through. And so I think 100% anybody that works in this kind of a field, like, yeah, I can know all the like lingo and say all the good stuff, or even know the steps to take, and I should journal and I should meditate. And I
Yeah.
should do all
Yeah,
these
all the
things.
things.
But then it's like I'm also like a single parent who has to like cut the grass and do, take out the trash and like all the stupid things that like never stop.
Yeah.
Like you have to do,
Yeah.
and then it's just a lot, and then it's like that thing you were saying about getting like depressed, and then I'll go into this place like, well, now I got to do it by myself, and I
Yeah.
got to do it all by
Yeah.
myself, and
Yeah.
and like look at, like I've gone there, like I
Yeah.
can't scroll social media forever, like
Yeah.
because I'll just create this narrative in my head that what I see on there is like reality, and I always have to remind myself
It's
like that's not like
Yeah.
the reality is that like I'm like rushing through, I'm working, I'm on this, I'm doing that. And then maybe I like take a cool picture of my dog and I post it, or my kid,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It
because
makes
you
it look
seize
all
that
great,
moment.
right?
It's that
Right.
those
Yes,
moments,
this
right?
moment.
Yeah, well, right. And I think I do the same thing, right? And I'm like, remember that you did that for a long time. You posted about this life that looked great.
Right.
But was it really, right? Like, yeah, sometimes it was, but was it all the time? I mean, absolutely not, right? It's not ever gonna be all the time. And I think it's important for us to remember that, for everybody to remember that, right? Because, man, it really does. Like, when we were younger coming up, like, we didn't have the social media piece. I know, it's
not.
wild.
It's
like,
real crazy.
Yeah.
And I know that's where a lot of this stuff comes, like with Scarlett. Gage isn't so much into like the TikTok, and I said the TikToks and like,
TikTok.
all the different things. But Scarlett really is. And she's so influenced by like what she sees on there. And then she told me this morning that our elf didn't do that great of things, and I need to Google what, didn't say
Yeah.
it like that. She's like, I think the elf needs to Google like, some cool things that he could do. And I'm like, she knows. I know she's telling me right now. She knows that I moved this elf, and I was like, well, maybe, I forget what I said back because I was like, well, maybe the elf is tired and doesn't have time.
Right. Maybe the elf is a single parent and doesn't have time to do all those things.
Like the elf has 27 more days or something to do something like naughty today. But
yeah, our elf didn't come yet. I wait until the first.
I didn't know that there was a December 1st date
Option.
until I saw it. I didn't know that. I just got the elf. It's the third year.
Yeah.
I lucked out for many years.
Our elf
But
waits.
Ours comes when the tree goes up, which is always the day after Thanksgiving, just because Brandywine gives us off that day. And
Yeah,
it works out.
yeah.
Like, boom, I get it done. So, but no, like, I thought it came out when the stupid tree came down, and now I'm stuck. I got
You're
extra
stuck
days.
every year.
Right.
But you know what? It's funny.
She's 11. I got, she might like.
Yeah, you're in those last couple years probably. No. But it's funny, right? That's one of those things that brings joy, right? When we talk about like.
Yeah, because like our whole vibe just changed. Right?
Yeah,
like
exactly, right? Yeah. It's like those things. I think for me, that's like the most important part of this, right? And Eric used to talk about it all the time when he was alive. Like he would always say, like, you just got to look and find the joy in all of it. Like, and he was like one of the first people that I had ever like interacted with at that level who was constantly reminding me, because he was so optimistic and so positive. And I'm the polar opposite, right? I'm like negative Nancy, and like I'm just very pessimistic, right? Yeah. And Eric was always like let's just find the good, like let's find the joy.
I try to do that.
It's so hard. It's really hard for me, and I think so much of our life experiences contribute to that.
Yeah.
And so now it's like those moments, right, where the kids find that joy. For me, it like makes your heart want to burst. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Like. She made a PowerPoint. She made a PowerPoint of her Christmas list. And it had like transitions, and she presented it to me, my mom and dad, and Gage on Thanksgiving. So she plugs it into like the TV and does this whole thing of like what she wants. And like, so those are the things really that I like am reminded, like, yeah, you made a PowerPoint, for your Christmas list. Like, okay. I can't get all that stuff for you. I don't have the money. But like you did this really cute thing.
Yeah.
And like it was, and then I was so proud of her because it was really good.
Yeah.
I was like, you did a really good job.
You'll be a good negotiator when you're older. Yeah. It's those, and I think finding those, and I think finding them for ourselves too. Because I'm good at finding them through the kids, and I'm good at like finding things to do that are fun for the kids. I think what I need to do a better job of is like finding those things like for me. Because I think sometimes like being a single mom now, right? And we don't always set time for ourselves. And I think that's how we end up stuck in those cycles of like the loneliness or the overthinking or the comparisons, right? And that's something I'm trying really hard this year, especially through the holidays. Yeah. Like, okay, what can I do besides the journaling and the meditation and all the things we know we're supposed to do? But like, where can I find joy, right? And I think service is always a part of that for me. Because I think about all the families out there whose kids are still out there or whose spouses, loved ones, whatever, kids whose parents are still out there. So like, where can we find joy in these little places and separate ourselves? I think for me, right? Separate myself from the work also. Because I think it's like all live in recovery, work in recovery, and then you're just a mesh. So how can I like separate myself and find like joyful things? Because it's so important.
No, I think that is a big thing that I started to do in the last like year. So there was like this couple years where I didn't do anything, and I remember like doing all this stuff with my mom and dad and the kids only, right? And what I had told myself was like, look how great I am doing this with my family, and we're like a unit, and it's great. And it was great. But then I wasn't doing anything like that I wanted to do or
Right.
enjoy,
Right.
right? So in this past like year, I started to like also do things for me, and that was even hard on like Scarlett, like not Gage. Like I said, Gage could care less, but she's like, "What do you mean you're going out?" You know what I mean?
Without
It's
me?
like, yes, without you, and I
Yeah.
need to do that. So like, I went to Six Flags or whatever, and that was for me, and it was I had fun. I did this
Yeah.
stupid what's that thing, the slingshot thing, right? Oh my gosh, I was terrified, but I did it. It
Yes.
was so much
Yeah.
fun, and then I showed her the video, and and she was like, she was mad that she didn't do it, but
Yeah.
like, I have to
You
do
have
that,
to do it.
and that has been actually really helpful for me to feel like I have a life.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
I have to find like those things, like not just doing like, like organizing this outreach. Like that's great, right? And
Yeah.
it's very like rewarding, and it's cool, like to help all these people. But I also have to do some things
For yourself.
for me, right? And that
Yeah.
has been something I would say that definitely helped me to get out of that space of like being super depressed and like,
Yeah.
because for a while I was like, oh, I can't have fun.
I can't
I'm
have
not
a
allowed
life.
to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to have a life. Yeah, I'm not allowed to
Because
do
everything
anything.
stops. When they died, like everything stopped. And it's like you feel guilty. Like I'm having a good time now.
Right, I'm not allowed to do that.
I'm not allowed to do that, right? Or if I post something where I look happy, is someone going to look at that and be like, she doesn't even care that he's gone?
Somebody,
like that's the stuff
listen,
you think about.
So someone messaged me and they were like, because I would always, if a memory came up, I would like share it, and they were like, you're in a relationship still with someone that's dead, and I was like, oh, like, and that was like, yeah, I am. And I didn't realize that I was. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even see that I was like doing that. And they were like, you're not, no, this is how you're, at least, even if I wasn't doing that, right? That's
how
how
it's
I was
perceived.
putting
Yeah.
it out there. So like, I wasn't allowing myself to even be open to anything at all,
Same.
So
Same.
yeah, I think we're always the same.
I know.
We're
But
always the
it's
same.
interesting that you say that because I remember having a whole conversation with someone that I was talking to and them saying, it really doesn't seem like you're past this last relationship. And it was like 18 months out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know that you get past that. Like this might just
Yeah.
be something that you're
You
going to
don't-
have to be okay with or not. And that's okay too. But like, there's not going to be a time where his birthday passes or when he died, like that, his death anniversary passes where I'm not thinking of him. The difference now is that like it's good memories and good thoughts. It's not where like the first year where I couldn't get out of bed, right? Or I couldn't have a conversation. Because I think, and I'm sure you've experienced this, right? It would depend on the day when someone would say Eric's name or Josh's name. Like depending on the day,
Yeah.
depended on the response, right? So like one day I'd be like, oh, thank you for sharing that memory with me. That's so great. I'm glad I know that. And other times I'd be like, get away from me. Like, I don't want to hear, because
Somebody-
people will come up to you like while you're working.
Right.
And they'll tell you this thing and then you fall apart at work and you're crying, or you'll get a text from someone and they'll be like, hey, I know it's so-and-so's, I know it's Josh's birthday today. I hope,
Right.
you're
Thinking
doing
of you,
okay.
love you.
And you're
Right.
just like, no, I was okay.
All right. I was like,
Yeah.
I was in
I was
work
good.
mode.
I was
Right.
good. But I think people don't know. They don't. Everyone's well intended, or
I think so. And I don't think like everybody, and then people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And even like, no matter who you are, what you're going through, like at any given moment, like I can respond to like, it might help me, it might not. Like I appreciate like that, that you're thinking, but like I remember crying at Old Navy at the register because they were like, you can save 30% if you get a credit card. And I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And then they were like, emergency contact. Oh, it was the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
It's like I had to
Yeah.
give my mom again. And I was like sobbing at this register. You
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
I did that with mail. So like mail would come to the house,
Right.
and BJ's. So we had a BJ's membership, and
Yeah.
Eric's name was first, and I called them like 5 times.
Oh, yeah.
And I keep getting mail. And so now it's at the point where the kids will hand it to me and we'll laugh because it's just like,
Right.
but I remember in the beginning
such
being
a
so
process.
blindsided.
Yeah.
And just so the other day, I got something from child support, like for Josh. And they're like, you have a child. And I'm like, no, like, nope, I don't. But okay. Now,
Right.
a year ago, that would have been like, I would have fallen apart.
I think
So it shows progress. It shows
I-
healing. And yeah.
And I do think like time, as much as like nothing fixes it, right? Like you just like learn to be okay with stuff. And like, cause I look like Scarlett's dad died 10 years ago. And like years ago, yeah. Like the same place I'm at with like losing other people is where I was at with him at that time, like the time is really like what has healed me the most.
Yeah.
Like learning.
And it's so
to,
cliche, right?
And
And
it
you
really
hear it
is.
and you're
Time
just like,
heals all.
yeah. But really, I don't think there's anything else
don't
that
think so.
really, and I honestly,
No
I
magic
think,
like potion to
No.
like fix it. Like you just
no, you just get to a place where it doesn't hurt as bad and you try and focus on the good stuff.
yes, and you just try to like fill your time with other things, like good stuff, like
Yeah.
let's have a friendsgiving and
Yeah.
and like
Or Great Adventure, like you said.
yeah, or whatever that.
There's a
looks-
Yuletide at Devon. I don't know what this is, but I've been watching it. It looks pretty. I think we may try it. I don't know. But it's like, let's do those things. And I think now the kids are funny. We went to Hershey Park a couple weeks ago, and the last time we were at Hershey, Eric was with us.
right.
And Gab turned to me at one point and was like, man, the last time we were here, he was with us. And I was like, I know we had a good time that day. And she was like, I know we did. And that's
Good.
cool,
That's
right?
a good way.
Because
right,
it doesn't make you retract and like fall
right, and
into
not
that
enjoy
space.
the
Yeah.
moment that you're in. So.
Yeah.
But it's like so like talking about all of that. Then there's like that piece we were saying in the beginning of like, do I want to let anybody else in?
Yeah.
Like I let somebody in just like a few months ago. It was a hot mess, right? It
Yeah.
was such a terrible decision, right? But I did it, and like,
Yeah.
and in reality, all like it taught me like, oh, I can
Yes.
love someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, like
I can do it
like,
again.
right. It was like okay, yeah, like
just
I
not
may-
with that person.
right, definitely not with that.
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
But
And that's a good feeling too. Like
yeah.
that's a good feeling.
I was like, what? This
Yeah.
exists. Like I can. And so I think that as much as they say like, you like we want to protect like our heart or whatever, and like there's a part of me that's like, I don't know, everybody I get with dies. I don't know if I'm a black widow or something.
yeah, it's
I
the
don't
same.
know.
I say it
Yeah.
all the time. And people don't understand my humor. So I say things like that and they're like,
I know.
and I'm like, historically speaking, just saying. Like and man, and I the first person that I spent some time with and like I'll say dated, like after, I had a whole meltdown with that person. Like in the moment, just had went out to eat. I was just like, I fell all the way apart. And I was like, I'm not ready. I can't do this. And it was like 8 months, maybe 8 or 9 months after the fact. And I remember like going home and being like, what is wrong with you?
But no, I did that. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna try because my friends are like, you should get on like Tinder or this
Yeah.
app or whatever, like Facebook dating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like listening to them. They're like, you got to get out. So like that, and I went and I like made fun of the guys. Like he wore like skinny jeans, and I was like, I don't really date guys that wear skinny jeans. This is what I said in my head, and I said out loud because that's me.
Yeah.
Then I was like, did I just say that to this guy? No wonder. Like,
Yeah, well-
that's what I told him. I was like, but my friend said I should like go on dates, and like, so that's why I'm here. Like, of course that didn't go well,
Right.
You know,
Right. And then you go home and you're like,
yes, I like
such a catastrophe.
so
Yeah.
bad.
No wonder I'm single. This is, yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't know what I'm doing at
Yeah.
all.
Well,
and it's
right,
like a
'cause
job.
that's what it
like
feels
it's another
like.
job. Yeah. Like I gotta like weed through because I made all these bad decisions with the ass ones. So like now,
And then
I'm
it's just
old
easy
and-
to be, right. And it's
Yes,
easy to be
like-
like, you know what, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm just
Like,
gonna
I'm
stay
good. I
home
have the
and-
kids. We'll hang out with the kids and be good. I know. It's an interesting, it's a weird, interesting space. But I think it's finally like, it feels good, better, right? To be in this place where like we can have this conversation
Right, yes.
versus some of the conversations we had right
remember
after
calling
those
you.
things. I know.
Oh my God. I think I was on the phone with you for like an hour
was
and
a
a half
while.
or something, like I was so going
Yeah.
through it and all the stuff that happens and like all that, like people just fall apart
People,
and they all,
well, and people
And-
aren't always kind or graceful or compassionate, especially, I mean, I remember people that I hadn't seen or talked to in years when both of them passed. Tell us what happened. Like, not even like, hey, how are you? Was it an overdose?
Oh, that's like the worst thing you could say to someone. And
It's-
then you're like, when you just got cussed out, I'm so, don't be mad.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think for me, I was like, so then I'm going to respond accordingly, right? At least none of your business. Why is that relevant? Like, why is that relevant? How about if you ask how my kids are doing, right? Or ask how I'm doing, but how did it happen? Like, and I get people are curious.
I heard sometimes, so listen, hear me out on this. So someone was saying, like, and it kind of made sense. Like, if it was like a younger person, it's like you almost want to know, like, because what if it's something I could die from,
Fear-based.
right? Like,
Yes.
oh, how did you die? Was it like, because some people like, oh, they got some crazy like infection and this happened or whatever that looks like. So I think that's like where that original, and people are nosy.
Yeah.
People are nosy.
Yeah, but I
right?
do think you're right. I think a lot of that is anxiety based, right? Because not to say that I'm never curious when I see something.
Right.
I think the difference is
You don't ask.
I just don't ask.
Right.
Right. I'm just like, I'm not going to ask.
Right.
But I do think, especially in our circles, when
always
people
the
are
assumption.
sober, Eric was clean for 5 years. I think that creates fear in people, right? Like, I'm
Right.
sober
Yeah,
for
yeah,
all
yeah,
this
yeah.
time. Like, if he could go out,
So can I.
so can I.
Right.
And I think that generated some of that fear too,
That
and
makes a lot of
curiosity
sense,
and all of that. I think I'm just the wrong person to ask in those moments, right? Like,
Right.
can you ask someone else? Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, don't bring it to me.
people ask my kids, like, what happened to your dad? And my kids are me, right? So they're all like, I'm not going to have that conversation right now, and we shared when we were comfortable sharing, and
Right.
that was their right. That was their dad that they lost. So, and so it's also bizarre, right? And it's wild because life's so short. And I think for me now, I'm just trying to snatch joy, right? Where I
Well,
can.
that's what I mean. That's why I'm like, I got to do these things. Like, I'm not going to not ride the stupid slingshot thing, right? Like,
Yes. The stupid slingshot
yeah,
thing.
it
Yeah.
was-
I'm going to do
was-
it.
I did it. And like, I want to continue to like do these things. Like, I went to some concert. I bought tickets to a comedian. Like, like I went to Florida for the weekend. And like those things, like I didn't take my kids,
Yeah.
and like we'll do something together, but like I don't have like a husband that I'm going to doing this stuff
Right.
with, like
Right.
I had like, and I need to still enjoy and live life, and life is too
Regardless of
short,
that, right.
Right. So I started like forcing myself like to do those things
Out
and-
of your comfort zone.
Oh yeah, I wore a vest the other day that was out of my
I
comfort
loved it.
zone.
I loved it. I thought that
It
looked
was Scarlett's
fantastic.
vest. It wasn't my.
I saw Regina said that.
Yes,
Regina's like,
and I laughed. I was like, it really
yeah,
is.
it is.
It
hers.
absolutely was Scarlett's vest.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I have to do that, and it's not always like I backed out. I had bought tickets to like Tony Baker. And I remember not going.
Yeah.
There were two different things that I bought tickets to in the beginning of like
I do it all the time.
and I didn't go.
Yeah.
And so now like I just like make sure I can
Yeah, you
find
gotta
somebody
do
else. We're going. Maybe you're picking me up, right? Like I
Yeah,
gotta
so then
do
you know
that.
you'll go.
Even we made plans.
Yeah.
I was like, we're gonna,
And then it's us because we are. Yeah, I know.
And then we didn't do it.
I bought tickets to this Alice in Wonderland scavenger hunt, and I was like, "You guys,
Oh, I did that too. I didn't go.
I didn't go. It was in Philly, and I was like, "We're gonna go," and the kids were like, "Oh, let's go," and then I was like, It feels like a lot of work now." So, but yeah, I've been trying to do the same. Let me find fun things that maybe I can enjoy with other people that aren't always the kids,
Right.
Because
Yes.
it's always the kids.
Be
right?
surprised. It ends up being
Yeah.
like a lot of fun. Like
Yeah.
I don't last too late, and
Surely not.
I'm like when I went to this concert, I had to laugh. Like it was, what time was it? Like 11.
I was gonna say, like-
yawning. I'm like, all right, like are we done?
It's time to go.
Like,
Yeah.
Like I don't.
There's
I don't
more to life than
drink.
Netflix.
I don't like smoke weed anymore. Like there's nothing. There's no extra like added bonus to keep me going.
Yeah. Yeah.
like so
Just the vibes of the music.
right. Yeah.
There's just more to life than Netflix. I think I have to remind myself. That too.
And see, I don't I only have these binges of watching TV. So I like will try if I watch something, then that's it. That's all that happens for the day. So
Yeah.
I have to
Get up and move.
I gotta get
Yeah,
out. If
me
I get
too.
out, if I just leave my house, like it's a good day.
Yeah.
Like if I stay in there the whole day, like
It's tough.
It's just that's the head. Like I go in there and then this and then, you know, all the stuff that like I said, like my kids want to do. Like, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this? Like I'm like, no, because I just want to watch this Netflix show
Yeah.
that I put on, and I need to finish like Westworld that I
Started
or
and didn't get
this or
through yet.
whatever it is. I
Yeah.
gotta finish it. So
And they load us up during the holidays. Lots of good things coming.
yeah, see, so they
I
just keep
know.
you sucked in your house as it's
I
cold out.
know. Yeah, we're gonna have to be meaningful and like find good things through the holidays. Yuletide at Devon. I don't know what it is, but it looks cool, so I'm gonna try.
In Devon, PA.
Yeah.
Is it like lights?
It's
You don't have
lights
any
and a
idea what it is?
skating rink and
skating
food
rink.
trucks and shops.
Oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
we should do
We should
that.
do that. We should do that.
We should
Yes,
really
should
do that.
No, seriously.
If so, here's what I've learned about talking about things and actually doing them. So, and this is what I just learned in the last like year. Like, okay, we talk about it. Like, we have to actually like make a date and say when we're setting it and buy the ticket and stuff like that. And a lot of the times, like I end up doing it.
Yeah.
Or if I like want to, even with like that, like the outreach. That once I put it out there, and then I was locked in.
You're locked in, and
now
you
I'm
have to do
stuck.
it.
I got to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's the same kind of idea. So then
Yeah.
if you tell your kids that you're going, you're like, I don't know.
You're
for
locked
me,
in.
You're locked in. I know I'm locked in because Scarlett's never going to stop. So she said, "Can we have a Christmas party this year?" Why? I'm like, yeah, sure. Every day since, that's all she's talked about.
Who
I'm
are
like,
we
if you don't
inviting?
leave
What
me
food are we getting?
alone,
Yeah,
like about this Christmas. But in the end, I'm going to enjoy that.
Right. Once you
Like,
get
I'm gonna
there that
invite
day, you'll enjoy it.
It's going to be a good time. So you got to replace those old memories or those old traditions with like new ones, right? And that's like, then you start to have that as your thing.
Yeah.
And maybe even if you are inviting new people, like in
That's a
life
good thing.
cycles, right? Like I've had different friend groups and stuff, and I've had my core friends that have been friends like from when I was like a kid, and there's only a few, right? But like I found that in my life, like the little crew of different people, I might do things, right? Because
Yeah.
doing things with people and like them being like my person,
Your support people
is
is
different,
very different.
right? So, that changes, and that's fine. Like I still have fun when we go do it, and like I'm sure we help each other through a moment at that
Yeah.
time. Like so, every moment you were saying about being positive, I'm that person who's always trying to get everybody to see the positive stuff, and then I'm like, but then there I am,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all like, yeah, let's know. Like, we gotta think positive. It's gonna be easy. If the stuff doesn't fit in the van, then we'll just come back and get it tomorrow. When my staff's like freaking out, like, but I can do that for everybody else.
Just hard to do it for ourselves.
That's with anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Isn't that the truth? So one of the things that I try and think about a lot in these scenarios, in this scenario, like anytime I find myself getting kind of like down or stressed out or missing Eric a lot, and he's around all the time. Josh is around all the time. Like I believe that. I'm a very spiritual person. But it's funny, right? Like towards the end of the summer before he passed, he and I had a lot of conversations about starting a recovery housing program. And I had a full-time job at the time, and it was a lot. I'm not going to say I wasn't happy there, but there was a lot of pressure, and it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And I would sit down with him, and Eric was really good at numbers. He loved math, and he was good at budgets and things like that. And I am good at those things, but don't like them. Like it's not, they didn't come easy to me. And I would say to him, we should just buy a house and we should start a recovery housing program because there's not a lot of quality out here. And there's such a great need. And he would be like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's just do it. Eric was like
A doer.
let's just do it.
I'm a doer.
Yeah, I'm not a doer.
I'm like,
I'm
we'll
gonna,
figure out
like-
the rest later.
Right. That was him. And I was like, I'm going to talk about it until I talk myself out of it because of all the risk. Right. So I used to say, well, what if this happens? What if we can't get financed? What if we buy a house and the house falls apart. Like random things that were just not even realistic. Right. What if no one wants to move into our houses? What if? And I will never forget, we were driving in the car and I was going through my what ifs like I always did because I live in anxiety. And he turned around and he was like, what about even if? Oh. And I was like, that sounds dumb. Like what? And he's like, even if all those things happen, we'll be all right. Yeah. We'll figure it out. Like, you're smart. I'm smarter. That's what he used to always say. And we'll figure it out, right? And over the course of like weeks after that, I came up with a million excuses as to like why I didn't think it would work. Mm-hmm. And I would say, well, what if? And he would go, even if. Yeah. So every time I would say, what if, he'd be like, even if. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, we're not going to get stuck in all the negativity. And then when he passed, when I say he's around, I mean, anyone who knows or follows Impact, it all came from that. Like, the courage to start a nonprofit came from Eric Madison. Like, that was, and there were other people that have been telling me for years. Right. But had he not passed away, I don't know that I would have kicked into gear.
Have fulfilled it.
Because then it became mission driven, right? It had always been important and it was always something I should do. But then it was like, now you got to do it. Because you and he started this, just this small idea, right? And this small idea that was like, we're going to get one house. And originally the plan was to name it after his sister, Melissa Madison, who had passed years prior, which I know you knew Melissa. So it was like, we're going to get this house and we'll name it after Melissa. We'll call it Melissa's house. And that was the plan. So when he passed, it was like, I was angry, right? Like, now I got to name it after you because you're not here, right? But Impact was this thought. It was this idea. And we were like, okay, we're going to, find a house, buy a house. And stuff. So now we have 13 houses. I got 50 staff. It's wild, right?
It's grown, right.
And that all came from Eric making me believe I was capable of doing it and also taking the fear out of it. Like, no matter what happens, it's going to be okay.
Even if.
Even if. Yeah. And so now I do it throughout my whole life.
Right.
Every time I catch myself, I'm like...
That's like such a different way to look at anything, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like anything. I mean, even if this happens, like, I'm going to be okay.
And he gave me that. He gave me that, right? And my friend Josh Fisher, who passed of an overdose shortly after, right? He had taken me to a recovery farm. And he introduced me to these people at a recovery farm in Maryland. And I was like, this is so magical. And so if Josh would have never taken me to the recovery farm, I would have had the idea to open a recovery farm in Delaware. And we did that, right? We're serving 10 women on 17 acres in Seaford. That came from Josh. Like, my Josh that passed, right? Not long before he passed, he texted me and he said to me, you and I have been doing this dance through life for centuries, right? And I said, well, what do you mean by that? Josh was always philosophical and he always quoted poetry. He was brilliant. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, we've known each other for centuries. And whether or not life works out the way we want it to in this lifetime, we'll always have another. And I remember being like, this is so random. And honestly, I said to him, you good? Because me, I'm like, is he high? Like, what's going on? Because he had, had like 60 days sober. Yeah. And I remember when he passed, and I was, because what do you do, right? You go back through all the text messages.
Read everything.
And the Facebook, whatever.
You still send text messages.
Yes, right? Yeah. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, we did. I always felt like I knew him for lifetimes. We spent 11 years of our life together. We have 3 kids together. And so I think it's the gifts that we are given, even in death, they're so meaningful and they transform my life. Those things transformed my life, right? Knowing that Josh, he was just so okay with whatever the outcome was. He was in tune with the universe. and he believed everything happened exactly how it was supposed to. And some part of that gives me peace, even though he's gone.
I believe that. But I believe that too.
Yeah.
I say that just because like this, I don't want it to sound what's the word? Insensitive. But like Scarlett's dad passed away. But like that situation was toxic and unhealthy, right? And I believe like when when he passed away, like yeah, he's in a way better place, right? Like, and there were all kinds of signs, but it was almost like he set me free, right? Yeah. From that toxic situation that I couldn't get myself out of. So like that whole thing happening, like, is tragic to tons of people. He had he has another son, he has other kids, like, but like, where would that have continued to go? And so I do believe 100% like that all things happen the way they're supposed to, even people like passing away. And there was, when he was in the hospital, there was this book, that was like this book he showed me, and I was like, what do you want me to read? And he's like brain dead in this hospital. And I flipped to in my head, the word faith came in, don't know why, flipped to the index, there's 3 pages in there. And I picked one of the pages to read, and I flipped to that page, and it's about being in a hospital, and that like someone that's dying and keeps going to the hospital, and then they stay alive for 3 weeks. This was like the scenario they used in the book, and after 3 weeks, like they decide like they don't want to fight down here anymore, and their soul goes on. And it was this whole thing. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what are the odds, right?
And then of course, I went to the other pages that were about faith. Nothing to do with anything like that. And that whole section was about like, sometimes like being here on earth in a human body, right? Like the soul doesn't want to be in that body anymore, right? And like we're the ones that are like, you need to stay here, and like you need to be here for me, and like doctors that's what their job is, to save your life and keep you here, when in reality like
our soul's done.
Yeah, so like that was like a life-changing thing for me, because every person that's passed, as painful as it may be, my sister, alcoholic, drank herself to death, could not stop, cirrhosis, like total liver failure, all that. Like she is absolutely free, and like we don't know like other people that don't pass away in that form, right? Like little kids or whatever. Like it's not for me to say, right? Like their soul's going to go hop in wherever you go, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost like, I think, selfish for us to be like mad at you for dying, like as if like, maybe that you wanted to pass away, but like it might have been a lot harder for you to be here in this body, right? And so for you to leave, like you were set free. So I got a lot from that for myself, for my own like healing. And then I don't know if it works for everybody, because I try to tell everybody, I'm like, wait, I have this section in this book.
Read this.
Right?
Read this.
Yes. But yeah, like at the end of the day, like I'm still here. You're still here.
Yep. There's a reason.
There's something, right? Like somehow I'm still at my job, like and I'm trying to do all these things to like help people. Like that's my purpose right now, whatever that is. And like, and I love it,
Same.
So like, I don't want to say that like those losses were, they're painful and they suck and it's hard to get through them. But like, I can look at my life right now and be grateful for everything. Like, where was I? My one friend says to me all the time, like, well, you have more than 5 pairs of underwear to choose from. It's like,
life is
there
good.
was a time that like I had 5 pairs of white, ridiculously ugly underwear that I had, and so I was in jail, all the time. Or you're in rehab. Like I could be anywhere. I could be homeless. Like living. Like no.
And I think too, it's that whole like I'm a better person because of those relationships. And I think with Josh that was hard, right? Because a lot of the years of our relationship were not good.
Right.
And there was a lot of pain, and it was very toxic, right? But the 96 days that he had sober this last time,
Right.
the amends that he made with me, and with my kids who allowed him to, man, I wouldn't trade that for, like, I'm so grateful, because I think all the time, I think about it and I'm like, what if he would have passed and I didn't have that? You know, there's a reason I got 96 days, you know, and I don't know what that is, but I'm so grateful. Right. And
I was going to have an abortion with Scarlett. Like, someone was going to pay for it for me because I didn't have the money. Like, what would I do? Like, if I
how
had,
different would life be?
Yeah. Like, what? She's like the cutest thing. Like my little sidekick.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, I'm sorry. I cut you off.
No, that's it. Same thing though, right? Like, I have to remind myself, and it's this, right? Like, how dare I not be grateful, right?
All the time.
How dare I not be grateful? And I say that to myself probably 5 times a week.
Even in my job, how dare
I not be grateful? Yeah. I mean,
like, I look at what the struggle is for some people, and I feel bad saying, like, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God, like that because I would absolutely be these people, you know, that are struggling, and like I can just try to be this hope, right? Like, just us sitting here is hope, right?
Absolutely.
For anyone. Like, the fact that, like, you know, we've survived, like, you know, whatever, like addiction, trauma, abusive relationships, like, you know, all the stuff that comes with like addiction, and to be able to sit and like say, hey, like, all this trauma's here, like, I might be able to help you with it.
Yeah.
People call me like, now, like, you lost this person. How
help?
did you
Same.
get through that? Right.
Same.
Like, and then like, there's like, what's that saying about if you know, you're going to use this to help someone else one day. Like, and that's so true. All the painful
Carry
things.
the bucket of water to those who are still in the fire, right? Like, there's like, it's, it teaches us also how to help them heal, right? When people reach out and they talk to me about losses, I can feel it in my core now. And everything they get from me is genuine, right? It's not this like, I'm sorry for your loss. It's like, like, I can say to someone else, I've been exactly in that scenario. If they share, you know, that they lost their spouse, or, you know, their children's father, or whatever, best friend, I mean, grandmother. I could go down the laundry list, right? And you don't wear that like a badge of honor, right? But it gives you, unfortunately, we are now qualified, right? To walk them through those things. And that's an honor, man. Like, that's not anything I take lightly these days. Because it really does. It's like genuine care and concern and compassion and empathy.
Well, I feel it. And so when you say you feel it, like, I'll
you feel
physically
it.
feel it, like, in my, like, because you said something earlier and I was like, oh, like, I feel it, you know, and I understand, and I can't fix it for you, but I can like be
right
with you
here
in it, you know?
Yeah.
And understand. Because, like, people think that they understand how something feels, and like, and I might understand for myself how it felt for me, and like, maybe I know it feels a certain way for you too. So, but like, I haven't lost a child, so I can't relate to that, right? But I mean, I have lost a child, but not to death. But you know, like all of that stuff, like, when you can sit there with someone, like, and sit with you, and like, and kind of take the pain from them just by listening. Like, then it's like, I did something, like, this terrible situation that I went through is like helping somebody else. And that's like, I think, where all of my, like, in the end of that kind of a conversation, I find myself being like, oh, that's why that happened.
It's like you like exhale, right? Like, you exhale, and it's like an unload, right? I feel that right now.
Yeah.
I feel that right now. Like,
we've had a whole therapy session.
A whole therapy session.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like I needed that more than I even realized I needed it. Right. Because it's been a rough week. You know, we've had some loss in the program, and the holidays are always tough. You know, they get tough for my kids, and
Yeah.
Your kids, we just got through Thanksgiving, and it feels different after, a loss like this, right? So Eric's birthday was the beginning of the month. It's, one of my granddaughters was born on his birthday. And so it's become this very bittersweet, it's like amazing because it's her birthday and we get to celebrate. And I don't think that was by accident. I think it was a gift, And so,
Yeah, because we don't want you to be sad.
yeah,
We want you to
right.
celebrate.
It's a gift, right?
No coincidences.
Yeah. So just this, right? Just sitting across from you. And I'm so grateful in every way, I probably don't say it enough. Just to have you in my life. I was talking about you this morning when I was talking about who was joining me. It was to Penny. And I said, Holly and I have this relationship where like we've had these intense moments where like I feel so close and connected to her. And we could go for literal months not speak. But I know like when those bad things happened, like I know you're on the other end, And when you called, I was almost waiting for it when I heard about what happened with TJ, right? And it's like just that safety net, just knowing that there's this human that genuinely is invested in like your okayness, on the other end, whether you talk every day or whatever, man, it's like you have this bond of these traumatic things that happen and you're like watching behind the scenes to make sure, like I watch and make sure you're good. Like I watch your posts and I'm like, oh,
something must happen.
Something's going on with her. I'm going to reach out, right? Or, just knowing, right, that you have this person. It's so important that you have your people, So thank you for being one of my people. I appreciate that. I know. No, it's okay.
You started to make me. I know. I stopped it.
We're good.
I was able to stop it. I was like, no, stop.
Nah, thank you for being one of my people. I appreciate it.
I mean, you helped me. Like, I was talking to somebody before I got here. I was like, we've had these like the same. It's literally like the same thing scenario. I said. Like, that was like, and we'll just talk and like all those really deep conversations about, and then even like this messed up stuff I've done. Like I've talked to you.
Yeah, same.
Like you.
Same.
Like, yeah,
done them.
Like that's what we're human,
yeah.
right? Like just because like people stop getting high or that even if they're like a normal person, like human beings make mistakes. Like
sure.
That's what, or they make choices that maybe you don't like or don't agree with, right? But
and then we're here able to like hopefully make other
and like
people,
I'm gonna love you through that choice
regardless.
That you made, right? Because like how dare I shun you or for anything that's happened. Like, you're like, that's like one of my biggest things. Like, I don't want people to ever feel like they're all alone.
Yeah.
Like you're not,
because that's a horrible feeling.
You made a unforgivable like thing. Like, no, like we've all done that.
And we're all damaged in some way.
Right? And whatever somebody did is not about you, right? Like, so,
it's all healable, right?
And then I can call Domenica and be like,
I know. Same.
This is what I needed to do.
That's what it's about, right? I mean, that's what it's about. Having your people, finding your people, and having your people.
And healing through and then helping someone else.
Yeah.
And looking back and saying, like, I got through that.
I got through it.
Like, I didn't use. This has been 9 years. Like, I didn't get high
wild.
through my sister dying, through TJ dying, through all, like, my bad choices. Like, I'm still, like...
here.
Yeah. And that's pretty cool. And I get to be here for you and for my kids and for, the podcast viewers.
The podcast. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So thank you so much for asking me to come. It's like an honor for me to be able to come and like sit and like be a part of something and try to like just whatever someone, if you ask me to do it, like I'm going to show up because I get to today, right? So I thank you for that, and I look forward to all of the things, the next podcast, and whatever new stuff is on the horizon. So,
and hopefully it can help other people, and
that's
now they should know that.
You can call me because clearly I've said that.
No one is so damaged that they're so broken or unfixable. We all got our stuff, so. So thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Yes.